What's between life and death? Not dying. Not almost dead. Not barely alive. I mean between. A third state. A place where biology's most basic rule, you're either alive or you're not, completely falls apart. Most people believe death is an off switch. One moment you're here, the next, gone. Binary. Clean. That belief is not a little wrong, it's fundamentally wrong. Here's a fact that should stop you cold. Right now, in labs around the world, there are human embryos that have been frozen for over 30 years. No heartbeat, no metabolism, no cellular activity whatsoever. By every classical definition, they're not alive, and yet, thaw them, implant them, they become people, walking, talking, conscious human beings who were technically not alive for 3 decades. That's not resurrection. That's not miracle. That's something biology cannot explain with its current categories. And it changes how you understand what you are, what your consciousness is, what light, yes, light, has to do with every breath you take and every thought you think. Let me show you. Do something right now. Look at your hand. Just look at it. That image, the one hitting your eyes this very second, is already old, gone, in the past. Light bounced off your skin, traveled through air, hit your retina, got converted to electrical signals, raced through your optic nerve, got processed by your brain. By the time you see your hand, that moment is already a ghost. This isn't philosophy, this is physics. Light takes time, always. Now here's the thing. Go stand in front of a mirror tonight. Look at your reflection. You're not seeing yourself. You're seeing who you were a fraction of a second ago. The present doesn't exist in mirrors, only the immediate past. Wild. But here's where it gets stranger. That delay, that tiny gap between reality and perception, is the same gap that makes the in-between state possible. The same principle, information traveling, information taking time, information being preserved across that gap. Hold that thought. Your reflection is light carrying a pattern, your face, your eyes, your expression. That pattern bounces off the glass and enters your eyes. The pattern survives the journey. Now ask yourself, what if you could pause that pattern mid-flight? Not destroy it, not let it continue, just freeze it, hold it in suspension. Stop time for that information. Sounds impossible, but it's exactly what happens in cryopreservation, in tardigrades, in seeds buried for 1,000 years, in the space between what we call alive and what we call dead. The pattern stops moving, but it doesn't collapse. The universe keeps strict books. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. But here's what they don't tell you in school. Information has rules too. Patterns have rules. And those rules don't care about our categories. Alive, dead, these are human words, human labels. The universe doesn't speak that language. The universe speaks light. It speaks pattern. It speaks, is the information still coherent? Can it resume? Is the structure intact? And if the answer is yes, then dead becomes meaningless. Alive becomes a temporary state. And between them opens up something we don't have a name for. Yet. Look at your mirror again tonight. Really look. Watch the light hit your face and bounce back. Watch the pattern travel. Watch the information move. You're looking at the fundamental mechanism of existence. And biology? Biology has been lying to you about what that mechanism actually allows. Photosynthesis captures light to make food. You eat that food. Your mitochondria break it down. The energy released, originally from light, stored sunlight from millions of years ago. Your DNA repairs itself using photolyase enzymes, triggered by light. Your circadian rhythm, sleep, wake, hormones, mood, controlled by light hitting your retina. Your eyes right now, capturing photons, converting light into electrical signals. That's how you're receiving these words. Light isn't just around you. Light is through you. Light sustains the pattern that calls itself you. This is where your intuition completely fails. We think light is passive, illumination, brightness, something that helps us see. Wrong. Light is active. Light is the currency of biological information. The universe's way of carrying patterns from one place to another, one moment to another. And the universe doesn't negotiate. Light doesn't ask permission. It moves at exactly one speed through vacuum. It carries exactly the information it carries. No more, no less. Reality doesn't issue refunds. So what happens when light-driven processes stop? Your heart stops. Neurons stop firing. Metabolism stops. No more photons being absorbed. No more energy being transferred. No more pattern being sustained. We call that death. But wait, what if the pattern doesn't collapse? What if it just pauses? No energy flowing. No light being used. But the structure, the information architecture, remains intact, frozen, suspended, waiting. Is that dead? The pattern isn't updating anymore. It's not alive by any classical definition. But it's not destroyed either. The information is still there, coherent, recoverable. This is the in-between state. The space biology refuses to name. Here's the part nobody tells you. This isn't rare, this isn't exotic, this happens constantly in nature. Seeds, spores, tardigrades, frozen frogs, bacteria in ancient ice, patterns that stop, patterns that wait, patterns that resume. No light chemistry running, no metabolism humming, but the information architecture, perfect, intact, ready. The universe keeps meticulous records. It doesn't lose patterns carelessly. It stores them, preserves them, until conditions allow the light-driven processes to restart. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Biology built its entire framework on a binary, alive or dead, on or off, yes or no. But the universe operates on a spectrum, pattern intact, pattern degrading, pattern coherent, pattern noise. Light is the accountant, energy is the currency, and alive versus dead, those are just labels we invented because we couldn't see the ledger. Now let me show you who first glimpsed this ledger and what he missed. The world is at war. Bombs falling, cities burning, chaos everywhere. And in Dublin, Ireland, a physicist sits quietly writing a book that will reshape biology forever. His name? Erwin Schrodinger. Yes, that's Schrodinger, the cat guy. But forget the cat, this is bigger. Schrodinger asked a question nobody had properly asked before. What is life? Not philosophically, not spiritually, physically. What makes living things different from dead rocks? Here's what Schrodinger got wrong. He said life is negative entropy, order borrowed from disorder, a temporary reversal of the universe's march toward chaos. Beautiful idea, but incomplete. He described what life does, not what life is, not what carries that order, not what sustains the pattern moment to moment. He missed the carrier, light. Think about what just happened. Schrodinger, one of the greatest physicists ever, wrote the foundational text on life's physics, and he barely mentioned light. But light is everything. Where does that negative entropy come from? The sun. Photons streaming 93 million miles, hitting plants, getting captured, becoming chemical bonds. Every calorie you've ever eaten, stored light. Every thought you've ever had, powered by ancient photons. Schrodinger saw the accounting, but he missed the accountant. The universe keeps strict books. And light? Light is the one holding the pen. Here's what Schrodinger should have written. Life is a pattern sustained by continuous light-driven information transfer. Stop the light processes, the pattern stops updating. But the pattern itself, it can persist, frozen in the ledger, waiting. He was so close. He understood that life borrows order. He understood that life fights entropy. He understood that life is information. But he thought the information needed constant flow, constant update, constant metabolism. Wrong. The pattern doesn't need to move to exist. A photograph doesn't stop being information because nobody's looking at it. A frozen embryo doesn't stop being a blueprint because no cells are dividing. Information is patient. Patterns can wait. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Schrodinger defined life by its activity, by its constant fight against chaos, by its never-ending consumption of order. But that definition breaks when you find patterns that pause. Organisms that stop all activity, zero metabolism, zero light chemistry, zero fight against entropy, and yet they return. Schrodinger's definition says they were dead. Reality says they weren't. So who's wrong? The definition or reality? Simple, the definition. People say Schrodinger solved life's mystery, but that's just a label. He opened a door. He didn't walk through it. The real mystery isn't how life maintains order. It's how order maintains itself when life stops running. The real question isn't what keeps you alive. It's what keeps your pattern coherent when every sign of alive disappears. Schrodinger gave us the vocabulary. Now we need to finish the sentence. And to do that, we need to look at something that shouldn't exist. An animal so absurd, so impossible, that it breaks biology's most fundamental assumptions. Hold that thought. Meet the tardigrade. 1/2 millimeter long, 8 legs. Looks like a microscopic bear crossed with a vacuum cleaner. Cute. Also, absolutely impossible. Here's why. Take a tardigrade. Put it in boiling water. It survives. Freeze it to nearly absolute zero. It survives. Blast it with radiation that would kill you 1,000 times over. It survives. Expose it to the vacuum of space, literal outer space, no air, no pressure, cosmic radiation everywhere. It survives. Now watch what this implies. Scientists have revived tardigrades after 30 years of complete desiccation. No water, no metabolism, no chemical reactions whatsoever. By every biological definition, dead. And then, add water. They wake up, start moving, start eating, start reproducing, like nothing happened. This is where your intuition completely fails. How do you survive 30 years of death? How does an organism experience zero biological activity and just resume? Here's the thought experiment. Imagine your laptop. You close it. Screen goes dark. No processes running. No electricity flowing. Is it dead? No. It's suspended. The information is still there. The pattern is preserved. Open the lid. Electricity flows. Pattern resumes. The tardigrade does the same thing, but with biology. It enters a state called cryptobiosis. Crypto meaning hidden. Biosis meaning life. Hidden life. Beautiful, but also wrong. It's not hidden life. It's paused pattern. The tardigrade doesn't secretly stay alive. It genuinely stops. All light-driven chemistry halts. All information transfer freezes. But the architecture remains perfect. Every protein in the right place. Every cellular structure intact. Every molecule exactly where it needs to be for restart. The pattern waits. People say tardigrades are incredibly resilient, but that's just a label. Resilience implies fighting, struggling, pushing back against death. Tardigrades don't fight death. They sidestep the entire question. They exist in the gap, the in-between, the space where alive or dead becomes meaningless. The universe doesn't care about our categories. Here's the question that should haunt you. During those 30 years of cryptobiosis, was the tardigrade experiencing time? Was there a something that it was like to be that frozen pattern? Or did 30 years pass in an instant? No experience, no duration, no time. If the pattern isn't processing, is anyone home? And if no one's home for 30 years, but then someone comes back, is it the same someone? We don't know. Biology has no answer, because biology never admitted this state exists. But we don't just see this in weird microscopic creatures. We see it in hospitals every single day, in technology we trust with human lives, and nobody talks about what it actually means. Do this right now. Think of someone you know born through IVF, a friend, a cousin, maybe you. Now think about this. That person, that walking, breathing, conscious human being, might have spent years frozen, not alive, not dead, suspended in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees. No heartbeat, no brain activity, no cellular metabolism, zero. And now they're here, reading, laughing, loving, existing. That's not science fiction. That's Tuesday at a fertility clinic. Here's the part nobody talks about. The longest frozen embryo successfully brought to life? Over 30 years in storage. 30 years of complete biological silence. Then implantation. Then birth. Then a healthy baby with a future. That child was technically not alive longer than many adults have been alive. Quiet. Let that sink in. Medicine has been exploiting the in-between state for decades, routinely, successfully, without ever admitting what it actually means. And here's where it gets even stranger. It's not just embryos. We freeze eggs, sperm, tissue samples, stem cells. Entire organs are being developed for long-term storage. The pattern gets paused. The pattern gets preserved. The pattern gets resumed. This isn't preference. It's accounting. The universe permits this. The physics allows it. The information remains coherent at minus 196 degrees. Light-driven processes stop completely, but the ledger stays intact. Your phone is doing this right now. Not with biology, with data. Phone dies. Information persists. Phone charges. Information accessible again. We understand this with machines. We accept it intuitively. But with life? Suddenly it's a miracle. Suddenly it's impossible. Suddenly our categories break. People say frozen embryos are just potential life. But that's just a label. They're not potential. They're paused. The pattern is complete. The information is whole. Only time is suspended. So far we've learned. Tardigrades prove nature allows the in-between state. Cryopreservation proves we can engineer it deliberately. The question isn't whether this state exists. The question is what it reveals about existence itself. Here's a thought experiment. Imagine we perfect cryopreservation. Imagine you could freeze yourself for 100 years, then wake up. During that century, did you exist? Were you? Was there continuity? Your pattern persisted, your information stayed coherent, but you experienced nothing. Is that sleep? Is that death? Is that something else entirely? And if a century passes in an instant for you, what does that say about time itself? The universe keeps meticulous records. Your pattern is in that ledger, frozen or not, active or not. But records aren't experience. Information isn't consciousness. Or is it? Now let's look up, way up, at light that's been traveling longer than Earth has existed. Look up tonight. Find a star, any star. Now realize something terrifying. That star might be dead, gone, exploded millions of years ago. But its light is still arriving, still hitting your eyes, still carrying information about something that no longer exists. The source is gone. The pattern survives. Wild. Here's the part that should keep you awake. Light from the most distant galaxies we can see, It's been traveling for over 13 billion years. The universe was young when that light started its journey. Those galaxies have changed beyond recognition. Some have collided, some have been swallowed by black holes, but their light persists, their pattern keeps moving, their information crosses the cosmos uninterrupted. Light doesn't negotiate. It carries what it carries until something absorbs it. Now think about what this implies. Information can outlive its source. Patterns can persist beyond the existence of what created them. The thing that made the pattern can vanish completely, and the pattern keeps going. This isn't philosophy. This is physics. This is what light does. And here's where it connects. Remember the tardigrade? Remember the frozen embryo? Patterns that persist while their sources go quiet? Now zoom out, way out. The cosmos is filled with traveling patterns. Light carrying information across billions of years. Information that has outlasted stars, outlasted galaxies, outlasted everything that made it. The universe keeps strict books, and those books don't close when the author dies. Dangerous thought incoming. What if consciousness is the same? What if what you call you is a pattern? And what if patterns, under the right conditions, can persist beyond their biological source? Not magic, not souls, not religion, just physics, just information, just the same rules that let starlight outlive stars. People say dead stars are gone forever, but that's just a label. Their light is here, right now, hitting your eyes, carrying their signature, their story, their pattern. In the most literal sense, they're not entirely gone. Here's an experiment. Tonight, look at the Andromeda galaxy, faint smudge in the sky. That light left Andromeda 2.5 million years ago, before humans existed, before our species took its first breath. That light has been traveling through the void, carrying information, while life on Earth evolved from simple primates to you. And now it ends its journey in your eye. Think about what just happened. A pattern crossed 2.5 million years of space and time, survived everything, reached you. You are the first thing to absorb that particular photon, the first thing to receive that specific piece of information. It waited, it traveled, it found you. Light is patient. Information is patient. Patterns are patient. The universe doesn't lose data carelessly. It moves it, stores it, preserves it across distances and timescales we can barely comprehend. Now let's ask the real question. If patterns can outlive stars, what can your pattern outlive? Stop. Let's put this together. We started with a question. What's between life and death? Now we have an answer, and it's not what you expected. It's not life versus death. It's never been life versus death. It's pattern versus noise. That's it. That's the whole game. Exactly. Everything you've learned about biology, every textbook, every classroom, every definition of alive you've ever memorized, built on a false binary, a convenient lie, a category error so deep we couldn't see it. Life isn't a thing you have. It's a process the universe runs, a pattern being sustained, information being updated, light-driven chemistry keeping the structure coherent. People say life is precious, but that's just a label. Process is precious. Pattern coherence is precious. Information integrity is precious. Life is just the word we use when we see the pattern running smoothly. This is where your intuition completely fails. We think we're nouns, solid, fixed, things that exist. Wrong. We're verbs, processes, happenings, patterns being sustained. The tardigrade understands this. It doesn't cling to being alive. It releases into pattern preservation, pauses, waits, resumes. The frozen embryo understands this. It doesn't fight to stay alive. It rests in information integrity, patient, still, ready. Light understands this. It doesn't care about our categories. It carries patterns, sustains processes, enforces the rules. Light is the referee. Energy is the currency. And your body? Just the current vessel holding a pattern that could, under right conditions, pause, wait, and resume. Biology wanted clean categories. The universe said no. Biology wanted simple definitions. The universe laughed. Biology wanted alive or dead. The universe offered a spectrum we're only beginning to see. The constant is enforced. Patterns follow rules. Information obeys physics. And in that physics, in that cold, precise accounting, a space exists between alive and dead, where patterns wait, where information persists, where biology's rules go silent. We've found the gap. Now let's name what it destroys. Here's what falls apart. Every definition of life you've ever heard, every medical standard, every legal definition of death, all of it collapsing, beautiful and terrifying. Take the medical definition. Death is when brain activity ceases, when the heart stops permanently, when cellular respiration ends. But wait. Frozen embryos have no brain activity, no heartbeat, no cellular respiration for decades, and they become people. So the definition is wrong, not slightly wrong, fundamentally broken. Take the biological definition. Life is metabolism, growth, reproduction, response to stimuli. But wait, tardigrades in cryptobiosis show zero metabolism, zero growth, zero response for 30 years. And they wake up. The definition is wrong again. People say biology understands life, but that's just a label. Biology describes the running process. It has no framework for the paused pattern. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to admit. We built medicine on definitions that don't hold. We built law on categories that crumble. We built philosophy on a binary that doesn't exist. The universe doesn't recognize alive or dead. Only, is the pattern still coherent? This isn't preference, it's accounting. Think about what just happened. Every court case about pulling life support, every ethical debate about frozen embryos, every argument about when life begins or ends, all of them asking the wrong question. The right question isn't, is this alive or dead? The right question is this pattern recoverable? Simple and revolutionary. If the pattern is intact, if information persists, if structure remains coherent, then the binary dissolves. Alive and dead become endpoints on a spectrum, not categories, gradients. And between those endpoints, the space we've been exploring, the gap biology ignored, the in-between state that changes everything. Reality doesn't issue refunds. You can't unsee this. Once you understand that you're a pattern, not a thing, once you see that patterns can pause, once you recognize the spectrum between coherence and noise, biology as you knew it collapses, not destroyed, expanded, forced to evolve, pushed to acknowledge what it always secretly knew. Life was never binary, death was never final, and between them, an ocean we're just learning to sail. So where does this leave you? Right now, reading these words, pattern running, light sustaining. What does this mean for the thing you call yourself? Do this tonight. Stand in front of your mirror. Lights dim. Just you and your reflection. Watch the light leave your face. Travel across the room, bounce off glass, return to your eyes. That's your pattern. Moving, being carried, arriving. Now ask yourself something. When you sleep tonight, deeply, dreamlessly, is the pattern still you? No consciousness, no awareness, no experience of time passing. And when you wake, is it the same you that fell asleep, or a new pattern that inherited the old one's memories? We don't know. Quiet. Here's what I want you to carry. You're not a thing that has experiences. You're a pattern that experiences itself. Light sustains you. Information defines you. And the boundary between your existence and non-existence, far blurrier than you ever imagined. The tardigrade pauses for 30 years and returns. The embryo waits frozen and becomes a child. Starlight travels for billions of years and ends in your eye. Patterns are patient. Information persists. The universe keeps meticulous records. And you're an entry in that ledger, a pattern the cosmos is currently running, a process light is sustaining, for now. For now. The in-between state exists. Biology had to admit it. We've seen it. We've used it. We've built technology around it. But we haven't faced what it means. If patterns can pause and resume, what exactly ends when you die? If information can outlive its source, what survives you? These aren't spiritual questions anymore. They're physics questions. They're pattern questions. They're questions about the ledger. I don't have answers. Nobody does. But the question has changed forever. It's not, are you alive or dead? It's, how coherent is your pattern? And what happens when coherence fades? Go look in that mirror. Watch the light move and wonder.